What's up, dudes? This is Captain Gimpy, and I'm here to talk to you about another movie today. This is a bit of an odd one, because it is a World War II film, but not your typical World War II film. And it's from the dude who we most recently know as the bounty hunting robot IG-88 from Disney's The Mandalorian, and Korg from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He has directed and written the screenplay for this film, and it's a pretty interesting movie. This film is about a young boy by the name of Jojo, played by Roman Griffin Davis, who idolizes the Third Reich, and in particular, Adolf Hitler. He idolizes the dude so much that his own personal version of Adolf Hitler is his imaginary friend, who also happens to be played by Taika Waititi. Um, the same dude. So he writes, directs, and acts. It's kind of amazing. Um, Roman's character is kind of this shy, awkward dude who wishes he was something else, and so as a result, he doesn't really fit into the mold that the Hitler Youth is trying to force all these kids into. You have some pretty big names in here. Rebel Wilson would be one. Scarlett Johansson is the other. Scarlett Johansson we've known as Black Widow. And Rebel Wilson, most of you will probably know from the Netflix original Dumplin', which she was amazing in, by the way, if you haven't seen that. I definitely recommend it. She's wonderful in it. Now back to this movie. Roman stars opposite a girl by the name of Thomasine McKenzie, who plays a Jewish girl who is being hid by Scarlett Johansson's character in their family home, unbeknownst to young Jojo. And eventually, over the course of them getting to know one another, it goes from Jojo trying to figure out what makes Jewish people so evil, because you gotta remember this dude was raised in Nazi Germany, to him genuinely loving her as though she were either his girlfriend or his sister. He can't decide between the two. Um, this is one of those movies that is comes off very understated. Um, as I was coming out of the theater from seeing this movie, there was a group of kids who went to see it, and one guy said, "It was really good, I just thought it would be funnier." Um, Talking about the idea of funny, this film to me is kind of a combination of something like Pan's Labyrinth, Monty Python, and World's Greatest Dad, kind of rolled up into one movie. And you set that in World War II, and you make it about Nazi Germany, and that's pretty much what you get. And you got to remember, it's also PG-13, so there were probably some limits as to how far you could take some of these gags and jokes. Um, so the interesting thing about this movie is that the relationship between the young boy and the young girl kind of takes center stage here, where and all the rest of the characters kind of deliver these over the top, caricatured versions of things that Hitler would actually release as pro-Nazi propaganda, which are two of the things that I think make this film so powerful for what it is, because what it is to me is really an analysis of where these types of prejudices are born and developed. And it does it in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable, it makes you think it's funny, and it makes you feel like a horrible person all at the same time. In fact, when I was in the theater, it was either dead quiet, or it was only me laughing, or me and maybe two other people engaging in uncomfortable laughter. Um, and that's pretty much how this movie hits you. And when the emotional moments happen, it's because of the way this film is structured, and because it's doing that so well, that the emotional moments hit you particularly hard. Um, I had an experience a long time ago about when I was in second or third grade that kind of stuck with me, and that's why I went to see this movie and why I watch movies about World War One, World War Two, um, films about other kinds of genocide and so forth. Because I went on a field trip to a museum, and part of the museum was made up to look like pieces of the inside of a concentration camp. And then we met a Holocaust survivor who was going to tell us what it was like surviving Auschwitz. And when I was rolling through the exhibit, my mind did this weird thing where all of a sudden I was overcome with emotion, and I saw a bunch of really harsh flashbacks about things that very probably happened at these camps. And when I talked to the dude afterwards, unfortunately, I can't remember his name because it's been almost 30 years. I asked him, I told him about everything I saw, and I asked him if it really happened. And he said, "You really did see it. You remind me of a guy that I knew who could see things that happened before, even though they didn't happen to him." And he told me that it was my responsibility to remember and never ever forget. And he said one other thing to me that I'm going to share with you guys. Um, it's our responsibility to make sure that this never happens again in any form, in any place around the world. And that's why I make myself watch these movies. As for my score, I would give it an 80%, because um, only because I wish the humor had gotten a little darker. I am kind of a fan of dark comedy, and I wish they could have pushed the envelope with that a little more. But it's a wonderful film. It's pretty well reviewed. It's fairly highly rated. Should be no surprise. If you get a chance, go check it out. I got lucky enough to have a screener sitting on my desk, but I went to see it in the theater instead because I thought it was worth my time, and I hope it's worth yours. And until next time, I'll see you at the movies.